All right. I wanted to just make a quick video. Um, Something I'm gonna do every once in a while, um, or it's really every wave spell, really, about each of the wave spells. I'm gonna go through them, I guess, once for now. Um, go through all 20 wave spells of the Tzolk'in and just kind of like give like a forecast in a sense. Like there's been other YouTubers who have gone through and talked about the wave spells, like, either a few days or a couple days before they would occur. That way people could like watch it and know what to go through. But my ultimate goal is to just kind of make 20 different videos about each wave spell, um, for anybody to watch at any time of a Zolkin cycle. So, what we're going to start with, however, is well, first I want to preface this by saying that we are in the middle of the Storm wave spell, which the Blue Storm wave spell, which goes from Kin 79 to 91. Today is Kin 85. But I want to, since we're, smack dab in the middle of the wave spell, I decided that the first wave spell we're going to cover is the Yellow Human wave spell, which is very synchronistic and appropriate because that was the wave spell I was born in. I guess I'm just going to kind of go through each of the 13 kin and try and make this as concise and simplistic as possible, and try not to go on for too long because I want more little shorter videos on my channel. But yeah, so I guess we can do one quick cycle of a G breath, because it doesn't hurt. So yeah, we'll say the command will be, and you can say this command in your mind or out loud, just say it as a standalone phrase. Power up. Begin by exhaling the air out of your mouth. Remember, deep, full breaths, breathing into your mouth. Breathing out through your mouth. Breathing in through your mouth. Breathing out through your nose. Breathing in through your nose. And breathing out through your nose. Breathing in through your nose. And breathing out through your mouth. Breathing in through your mouth. And exhaling out your mouth. Okay, so this, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. I'll try and be as timeless and universal with my information as possible, just so in case you may be watching this one Zolkin later, or 2 or 3 Zolkin later, But the Yellow Human wave spell is the 8th wave spell. It's the wave spell I was born in. It goes from Kins 92 to 104. And it is part of the White Castle, meaning the second set of 52 kin. So from Kins 1 to 52 is the Red Castle. That's the first castle. Kins 53 to 104 is the White Castle. So it actually concludes the White Castle. But the thing to note here is that it is the yellow wave spell in the White Castle. So if you're not aware of the alchemical colors and how they operate with each other, yellow and white, or silver and gold, lunar and solar, is antipodal, meaning that they are challenging, right? But yet they stabilize and balance each other in a sense. And white has to do with more like mental aspects, right? It's of the element of air, which is of the intellect and the mind, whereas the yellow is the fire, so it's like the soul in a sense. The more what you call it, the more spiritual side of things. So when these two are working together, it's great because it's like you need to have that passion and that drive of fire, but in that spirituality, or really spirituality doesn't really make sense because spirit comes from the Latin spiritus, which means breath, but it's more of the soul, right? So in order to have that passion, it's best to mix it with intelligence, because otherwise you could end up as a religious zealot. But not to digress or anything, but it is the yellow wave spell in the White Castle, which is challenging for the yellow human, because the human soul, it's a yellow seal, right? The yellow human, it's the 12th seal, is all about the human soul, right? It's the excitement and the happiness and the joy of being a human, and enjoying life as a human. But it's in the White Castle, meaning that it is there to stabilize the human, so that it can understand not to be out of harmony with nature, or out of harmony with its world, and to be in tune with that, right? So the white energy is there to continuously, it's like spirit, right? Spirit is constantly guiding human or it's really the world bridger, which is another way of saying the dielectric world, which is the world of death, but it's also the world of all potential, aka the Father, right? It's where all things exist, right? And so it's that spirit, the breath, that's guiding the human onto the path that they're supposed to be. So it begins with kin 92, which is yellow magnetic human, and as some of you don't know, the magnetic kin of a wave spell is what gives it its purpose. So since it begins with kin 92, which is yellow magnetic human, this 13-day cycle is all about the yellow human. And one interesting thing to note, 92, this number, right? Within the the chromosomes, right? Every human being has 46 chromosomes, or 23 pairs, right? They have the 22 autosomes, and the 23rd, or the first, whichever way you look at it, is the sex chromosome, right? So, as you know, females have XX and men have XY. But if every single human being has 46 chromosomes, then that means if you take 46 for a man and 46 for a woman, then you have 92, right? And it's kin 92, which is yellow magnetic human. And if you ever hear me say like one human, right, or two Skywalker or something, the number 1, 2, etc. is the tone, right? So when we talk about one human, we're talking about kin 92. So it's interesting that it is tone 1, because it's saying one human, one. And hue really means like color, it means light, just like chroma, in chromosome, which is, if you think of like tiresome or burdensome, means it's like some burden or some tiredness. It's like chromosome is like saying some light, right? Or of light, if you will. So again, yeah, human beings are just like everything else, made up of light. And that 92 is just really fascinating, because it's like saying, if you take all the 46 chromosomes of a man, 46 of a woman, you make the alchemical marriage that's encoded within our Lord Jesus Christ, you get 92 chromosomes altogether, which that's one human. But yeah, one interesting distinction that I want to make while simultaneously talking about the following kin is kin 93, right? Which is the lunar, which the lunar always, so the tone 1 of a wave spell always gives it its purpose, right? The second reveals the challenge of the wave spell, right? Which in this case it is, it'll always be the following seal, but in this case it's red lunar skywalker, which is kin 93, and that is uh, the red skywalker is the prophet, understanding the rhythmic cycles of nature and archetype and how things are constantly recycling itself. It's the Skywalker is the prophet, but in this case, lunar Skywalker is like saying um, that the Skywalker who sees both the good and the bad, right? Which is the very essence of the human experience, right? We can both, within our minds and within our lives, we can see both the good and the bad, which is really unfortunate. But that's the challenge of the Skywalker, to have to deal with that. But I want to make a clear distinction of the human and the Skywalker. So, for instance, let's take the first human and Skywalker pair, which is kins 12 and 13. Those numbers, 12 and 13, are referring to an ascension process, right? So if you have your 12 signs of the zodiac, your 12 disciples, right? Your 12 Sephiroth and the Kabbalah, that's talking about the parts of light, right? So you have your 12 made up of two pairs of sixes, right? Which are also the two genders, etc. The 12 refers to the body or the parts, right? Whereas the 13 refers to the unified system, which is the more transcendent aspect. You can also see this process within the following two kin of the human and the Skywalker, which is 32 and 33, as embedded within the life of Christ, etc., the ascension process, right? Going from that 32nd degree to that 33rd, right? Which the 33rd is like, the 33rd and the 13 are talking about the soul, which is, the solar, which is the sun, which traverses all 12 signs, right? So that's what it's referring to, is that pure consciousness, right? So in this case, you have the purpose of the human with the challenge of the Skywalker. So the distinction between the Skywalker and the human is this. The human is just referring to basic human rights, as you call it, a humanitarian. The things that all humans enjoy about being a human in this life, which is having a wonderful home, having a wonderful family, providing all the things that you need, having a purpose, fitting into your community, belonging, and finding fellowship with your other humans. Whereas the Skywalker is the human that is the spiritual human. It's the human that seeks the higher spiritual realms, hence 13 and 33, right? Etc., etc., with all the following Skywalkers. So that's the only distinction. The yellow human is human and just in its normal life, enjoying life, whereas the Skywalker is the human that's seeking the divine or the spiritual. So the next kin is kin 94, which is yellow electric. Oh, sorry, what am I saying? Kin 94 is white electric wizard, which I call the Pi Wizard because its kin code is it's got tone 3, seal 14. There's a bunch of stuff that I've decoded about the Pi Wizard, but it's essentially giving us the service of the Wavespell. The tone 3 is basically the thing that we are essentially emanating in order to bond and activate the energy to give us, we have the purpose, which is of the yellow human, right, to extend out and give everybody free will, right, and rights to live as happy, humans in a tight-knit community where we all feel connected, right, one human. Challenged by the Skywalker because we have this rhythmic up and down, back and forth nature down here in the Earth realm, right? But we also have this the thing that activates us and helps to bind things together, which is the service, and that's the wizard, which has the power of the hands, right? So it's basically telling us that we have to find and summon the power in our hands and start problem solving, because that's who the wizard is, right? So that's the service of the Wavespell, is serving, right? you want to be a human that belongs in a community, you have to serve the community. And then that leads us to kin 95, which is 4 eagle, or blue self-existing eagle, which is, we do this with the form of vision. We do this with the form of mind, right? We perform this service, which tone 4 is the form, the way, and the method in which we do this, right? And we do that through mind. That's the thing that distinguishes humans from every other creature, right? Every other creature. Like, it's symbolic of the eagle because some animals like the eagle and other birds actually have this capability of understanding. But again, we humans are on a totally different level. But the way in which we carry out this process of the human is with our minds and our inner vision, right? Creation, that's the power of the blue eagle, right? Because they have the all-seeing eye that can see all these things and understand all these things. And the following kin, and that's actually my own kin, which is kin 96. Like I said, I was born in this Wavespell, is basically the nuance or the deeper meaning to the Wavespell, right? Every time you get to the overtone, tone 5, right? It's basically telling you why. Why are we doing this, right? And the reason being is for basically intelligence, right? Intelligence and wisdom, and understanding that we have to be fearless, right? We have to have courage, right? Because, well, the very essence of the warrior is the warrior fights, right? For the greater good. Why are we doing this? Overtone, right? Tone 5. Why are we doing this? Because it's the right thing to do. And we have to embody the energy of the warrior in order to carry it out. Now, going into tone 6, which is kin 97, red rhythmic earth, is all about the back and forth type of energy that we're going to experience during the Wavespell, right? It shows us the work that we have to, like, basically constantly juggle and organize and balance, which in this case, it's the earth. So we're doing this for the betterment of the earth, right? And we're organizing the earth and balancing things, right? Which a lot of it has to do with understanding the synchronicity and the evolution of things, right? So it's going to be a balancing act of interacting with the earth, right? And that is the rhythmic tone, is organization, right? But at the same time, because it's that rhythmic, it's going back and forth. It may seem like the earth, it'll go. The nature of the earth and navigation and synchronicity can appear bad, it can appear good, and it'll go back and forth like this, but that's the work that needs to, or not the work, but that's the juggling act that we have to perform, right? But it can also show you some beautiful things about the earth and take you to some interesting places, right? Now, kin 98, which is the 7th tone of this Wavespell, which is the whole purpose of it, right? Not the whole purpose, but it is the heart. You get to the very center of the Wavespell, which is always the tone 7 of the Wavespell. I call them kinters. In this case, it's the white mirror, kin 98, white resonant mirror. And the heart of the Wavespell is telling us that everything is a reflection of us, right? And it's endless, right? Every other human being is a reflection of ourselves, right? Which is interesting how, kin 92 began. The whole thing is talking about the 46 and 46 of the chromosomes, and, both the male and the female being unified into one, right? It's interesting that the very center seal is the white mirror, right? Kin 98. So it's basically showing us that that's what's resonating at the heart of this Wavespell, is the reflection that everything is us and we are everything and everyone else, etc., right? You get the idea. But that's the heart of it, right? When you get to the very center of the Wavespell in any kin during the 13 days, when you get to the very heart of it, that's what's going to be there, is that resonating white mirror, right? Now what we're doing is we are the energy which has been established through the first 6 into the half of the 7th, right, is now basically, it's being transformed through the 7th, but now it's like flipping over and becoming polarized in a sense. It's basically now going through that first half of that process, but backwards, right? With results. So the first half of the wave spell is always this um, active principle to it, right? It's like creation, right? And then the second half is the reaction, which creation and reaction are anagrams for this reason, right? So when we get to tone 8, which is the galactic, and in this case it's the blue galactic storm, it's basically it's, a cult partner is with tone 6. So in this case, it's again the alternating energy of the rhythmic, but galactic is more passive. Like it's just something you have to like get through. It's not something you have to like try so hard at doing. You just have to be more passive, but it is going to have that the galactic energy is that alternating back and forth, back and forth. It's tone 8, right? So again, you just have to go back and forth between this energy. But remember that tone 8 will always be the pop quiz of the previous wave spell, right? So, for instance, is the Galactic Storm, the previous wave spell, Blue Storm. That's actually the one we're in right now. But basically, however good we did in that previous wave spell will basically be reiterated in the galactic tone of the following wave spell, and it'll basically be giving you a pop quiz to be like, how good did you do those last 13 days? And then we step into tone 9, which is a mirror of tone 5, right? And it is essentially a time of with tone 8 it is the storm, so just remember that it can get very turbulent, but it's also purifying you and regenerating you and catalyzing things to make way for the new. So it's, that's the storm energy. Now we go on to tone 9, which is the solar, which is basically a time to look within and be like, what am I pulsating? What am I giving out? Like, what energy am I radiating? Like, what is my intentions, right? Because our intentions are the root of why we do the things that we do, etc. Which in this case, it is the yellow sun, which is fascinating because the solar tone is of the sun. So that combination, this is Kin 100. So it is the completion of this intestinal system. So it's like saying totality, at least according to, the decimal times decimal, which is, 10. So God made this intestinal system for a reason. It has this kind of like important quality in our minds and the way that the things work. But the solar sun is basically saying like, what am I teaching people? What am I preaching? What is the energy that I'm radiating, etc., etc.? Am I enlightening people, or am I, making people worse? It's like that combination of the solar tone with the yellow sun seal is a very good time to like go within and realize what you're radiating. Then tone 10 is basically the time of performance, right? Which mirrors the tone 4, which is the form in which we do things, which as we look back, it was the blue eagle. So it has to do with vision and mind. We have to use our intellect and understand what we want to create. And in this case, it is the red planetary dragon, Kin 101, which basically the dragon is the power of being. And it's like the most basic form of love, right? We have the white dog, which is like pure loyalty and heart, versus the red dragon is just sort of like a love of being. It's kind of more of a platonic love. So the red planetary dragon is basically the challenge and the action that we have to take to give, love, and it's, not necessarily with equality, but according to, you have to use your own internal judgment system in order to know how to give that love. But basically that is the challenge of the human wave spell, is try to give as unconditional, equal, universal love to all as much as you can, right? And then we get into Kin 102, which is the white spectral wind. Basically the wind, the spectral tone is mirroring the third tone, right? Which the third is the service. And basically it's a time, tone 11 will always be antipodal to the first tone, right? So it's always, the spectral tone is always antipodal to the purpose of the wave spell, right? And so basically the spectral basically, I know I said basically twice like that, but the spectral helps us to understand the underlying systems behind whatever seal it's matched up with, right? So in this case, it's the white wind, which is pure spirit and communication and breath, right? It's basically helping us to dissolve and step into that spectralized understanding of that seal, right? So it's like the whole purpose of the yellow human wave spell is free will, wisdom, influencing, etc., with the powers of the yellow human. But also it's basically a time to show us like what humanity needs to understand, and that is the power of the wind, right? Which is pure spirit, right? Or, you know, in its true form, that's the power of the wind, right? It's showing us the sort of etheric voice of God, right? That's basically speaking to us at all times, which if we quiet our minds and listen, we can hear, right? In the power of the wind, which is the breath, because the air that constitutes our breath is the wind that's out here. But anyways, I'll keep going. So then we get into tone 12, which is the crystal, basically where the whole system is basically, all systems are operating in unison, like one big, I don't want to say machine, but it's like one big universal system that's all operating together in unison, right? And the seal that it's matched up with is the blue night. So it's talking about the dream world, right? The dielectric realm of the subconscious or the unconscious, right? Because the subconscious is, well, it is the unconscious realm, right? Which is like our it's the dielectric place where the Father is radiating from, where all forms are coming from. It's the dream realm in a sense. So everybody has their own understanding of dreams and their own inner being, right? That place of darkness when you close your eyes and go within, right? That matched up with the crystal tone, right? Basically causes the dream world to all be working in harmony. So Ken 103 is very powerful for that reason. And so its mirror opposite is the lunar tone, which is tone 2. And so the whatchamacallit, the Skywalker, lunar Skywalker, who saw things like, you know, dualistic, and is like going back and forth between these two aspects of, you know, the rhythmic nature of time and archetype and the way that things are fluctuating in the world. It's like that kind of becomes more clear, because now the dream worlds are all kind of like coalescing and working together. And it basically becomes more apparent if you look out into your world on that, Ken, because then you can see like basically what's happening in the dreams, right? And then tone 13 is basically the wrapping up of the wave spell. It's converting it over to basically create the next wave spell. But it's also sort of like showing us the end result and the final conclusions of the wave spell, right? So it's not really, you know, just like every Ken in the last half of the wave spell. It's, don't worry so much about needing to do anything or be active, because it's more about presence and endurance, and allowing, you let go and you let time work, right? You let God's will be in charge, and you just let things be, because it's all about presence, right? It's all about transcendence, etc. From the physical realm. Like I said, the difference between 12 and 13, and understanding the spiritual. So in this case, it's the yellow seed. So it's basically helping us to understand basically the seed is all the little nuances of our thoughts, right? It's the garden of the mind, right? And so it is basically a time to go into the garden and of your mind and understand, okay, what is this looking like, like what am I thinking? That's why it's very connected to the previous yellow seal, which was the solar sun, the overtone warrior, and the magnetic human. They're all connected through the fourth dimensional time pulsar. um, and the essence of it is basically to realize, like, what has been planted within me that has now been cleared up. Things have changed over, so now, like, what is the condition of my garden, right? And when you are existing in that kin and you're having presence and you're reflecting, you can see that it makes it very clear, which then basically gives you a more clear idea of your energy within, right? The state of your mind, the state of your body, and that's what prepares it for the ninth wave spell, which is Ken 105, Red Magnetic Serpent, because then it prepares the way for the wave spell of Life Force, right? And that last kin of the wave spells is basically a time of reflection upon the current state of our gardens, right? And yeah, so that's I don't want to go on any longer. It's already been 31 minutes, but that's basically the Hello Human Wave spell. There was a lot that I didn't know about it until I started reflecting on it and talking about it. But yeah, the more that you follow the law of time, specifically the Tzolk'in, the more you start to realize just how time works, how archetype, pressure, and how nature is constantly coded by these mathematical principles that are constant. It's the pressure mediation, right? It's one big freaking crucible that is constantly evolving in on itself, and it's constantly improving based upon the previous energy, right? But the energy that it's becoming is ingrained and encoded within the software, the database, which is our Holy Father, which is the Dielectric Center. So yeah, that's all I'll say right now. Yeah, but enjoy the Yellow Human Wave spell. I'll come back probably 2 or 3 days before the end of the Yellow Human Wave spell and do the Red Serpent Wave spell.